To our Best Start Partnership. Yeah, welcome to our Best Start Partnership meeting tonight. Before we go any further, I just want to do a quick check-in with everyone. How are you feeling? I know a lot of things have been going on. So this is just our check-in moment. A lot of things are changing in our community, in our society, in our world today. And folks have been dealing with a lot of anxiety and stress. We just want to make a check-in time to see how are you doing? How are you landing? Are you struggling well? Just wanted to hear from you all. Is everybody doing okay? Anything on your heart you want to share? Hi, Ms. Day.
So I'm at ease with observation.
Say that again. I didn't quite hear you.
I am at ease with observation.
Ooh. At ease with observation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. I've never heard that one. Okay. Anyone else? With all that's going on in our world today and these first 2 months of our administration, how is everyone coping? Everyone doing okay? Or not so okay? Are we struggling? Are we struggling well? Okay. Welcome, welcome. All right. So we're going to continue on. Thank you again for sharing, Ms. Day. Make sure you do sign in. We want to welcome you. We are recording tonight, just so you know. And actually, our dear Carla Garcon is going to be doing our interpretation if you are in need of interpretation. Carla will be providing some of that. This is our Best Start vision, building collaborations to support flourishing communities, compassion, respect, communication, integrity, and acceptance. These are the things that we're standing on as our Best Start community change agenda in our partnership. Just want to remind you of that. This is what we stand for. Next slide. So this is our agenda for tonight. We have an acknowledgement for our Black History Month. We're going to do a brief review of our January meeting. We're going to have a panel discussion with a childcare provider. I'm hoping they get here in time. We're waiting for them to show up. Then we also have our Best Start community projects that we want to review with you. Then we have some community updates. I see you, Sylvia. Sylvia said in the chat, and I'll read that just quickly. We'll have our community updates and invitations and our Best Start learning opportunities and announcements. And so in the chat, Sylvia, she's on the road, you all. So just make sure, keep her lifted up, she get home safely because it's crazy traffic out there. But she wrote in the chat, life is very difficult for many. There is fear and uncertainty, but want to remind our community that we embrace you, support you, and will do everything to keep our community safe. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Sylvia. So our desired results at the end of this presentation of our meeting is to strengthen relationships in our community. We're going to continue reviewing the Best Start community projects and understand the challenge of the ECE workforce, as well as identify leadership opportunities to step into. Carla, did you want to translate that for Sophia? I see a statement from Sophia.
Yes, thank you. I was just checking in on that. Ok, perfecto. Yo voy a dar un poco de interpretación aquí. Aquí están nuestros acuerdos de la reunión. siempre decimos ser puntual, manténgase presente y comprometido, y sobre el tema, ya que a veces nos podemos ir fuera del tema, poner el foco en el futuro, ser auténtico, sé tú mismo, una persona habla a la vez, aceptar estar en desacuerdo respetuosamente, terminar su oración, no un párrafo, dar un paso adelante y dar un paso atrás cuando sea necesario, ejercer confidencialidad cuando sea necesario, ser paciente y abierto a la tecnología, ya que a veces hay unas cuantas fallas. Mantén tu video encendido, si es posible, si no, no se preocupen. Asuman intenciones positivas, ya que un día lluvioso traerá flores. Separar a la persona del título y ser creativo y diviértanse.
Thank you so much, Carla. So we have a brief presentation for our Black History Month, and we'll go ahead and start that now.
It's February, so many teachers and schools are celebrating Black History Month, but there are still many misconceptions.
Unfortunately, captions in Spanish aren't available.
Oh, over
Right there,
Susan.
click, yeah, there you
Okay,
Ah.
Spanish.
Okay, just while we're waiting, Sophia says she understands, just whenever she needs help, that's all.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Thank you,
Conceptions and
Sophia.
misunderstandings about the past, present, and future of this celebration. So today, I thought we'd go back to the beginning. Hi, this is Mike Hines, and I'm a professor here at the Stanford Graduate School of Education, where my work focuses on the history of America's schools. What we now know as Black History Month had its beginnings as Negro History Week, which was invented by the famed historian, educator, and activist Carter G. Woodson in 1926. Negro History Week was a direct challenge to traditional curricula of the time period, which often degraded and dehumanized Black people. Negro History Week was also inextricably linked to Black calls for social and political equality. More than just a chance to talk about a few notable achievements, Negro History Week was a call to action. Although Negro History Week became one of his most widely known interventions, it was only part of Dr. Woodson's efforts to develop, democratize, and disseminate information on Black history. He also pursued this work through the establishment of the Association for Negro Life and History, its journals, the Journal of Negro History and the Negro History Bulletin, and textbooks, speeches, pamphlets, and materials for every grade level from college down to kindergarten. Now, Woodson didn't do this work alone. Moving from idea to reality took the dedication of thousands of Black teachers, most of them women, who were largely responsible for shaping the celebration through their work in the classroom. It also took the work of entire communities, including churches, fraternities and sororities, libraries and lodges, social clubs, and civic organizations. This reflected Woodson's desire to encourage lay people, not just academics, to preserve and present their own histories. As the movement continued to grow, it outstripped the bounds of a single week, and the word Negro, which was outdated by the 1960s, was replaced by a new generation born and raised in the civil rights struggle. Black History Month emerged in its current form during those decades and is still going strong. So, is this celebration still relevant today? Well, it depends on who you ask. Critics charge that the progress we've made from the 1920s to the 2020s has largely made Black History Month irrelevant. Or that worse, singling out Black history is actually counterproductive to broader efforts at inclusion. Although we may have made progress, however, research from the Southern Poverty Law Center and other sources still shows that we are far from our goal of honoring the multiple voices in our classrooms and challenging dominant narratives. At the same time, new and emerging movements for racial justice call out for historical context, which our schools simply fail to provide. Carter G. Woodson himself was cautiously optimistic that students in the future would no longer need Black History Month if we taught in ways that honored and elevated our students and told their stories all year long. But we're not there yet. So Black History Month will continue to be what it always has been: a celebration, a stinging indictment, and a call to action, all in one.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, David. Okay. As we move on into our meeting, we have a recap of our January meeting, and I'm going to let my esteemed colleague, David Delacruz, just briefly touch on what we covered for the month of January. David?
Right. So we mentioned this last regional meeting, but I wanted to talk about, just remind everybody about the process of our community change agenda. If you remember, in October, we started our first community-oriented discussion that gave us feedback on the tactics that we wanted to present as part of our Best Start project. And so that was in relevance to our goal 1, which reads, children have access to quality childcare and early education that meet the unique needs of the child and family, to which the next month in November, we touched upon goal 2. And goal 2 reads, families have access to early childhood resources that focus on the whole child and family well-being. Now in December, we had a end of year celebration. You know, we looked back at all of the highlights and success stories from Best Start, from Best Start members and our partners, and we were able to have a nice lunch for that one. But then come January, we touched upon goal 3, in which we talked about our goal 3 in the community change agenda that reads, local professional opportunities are available to support a growing, diverse early education and childcare workforce. And now all the input that I received from these goals in our community discussions have been compiled now into tactics that we've been able to identify in different domains, which I'll go on to share. So as a result, and this is the Spanish one, I'll give a moment for that to be read. But as a result, we were able to compile all the notes from our regional meetings, which were virtual, which were online, notes that were captured in these discussions that were had in our parent play groups as well, and that was all compiled to what we've been able to disseminate now, which is in this little graph right here that shows you the different domains and how we're going to be acting in projects, in Best Start projects, relevant to those domains and the goals that I had mentioned previously. So here you'll be able to see all the different domains starting from community engagement and education. And this one we have a tactic here that is relevant to goal 1 and 2, in which we use the promotora model to develop a curriculum to train childcare community promotoras. And so I'll move on to stakeholder engagement and collaboration, in which we've identified 3. And again, this is all derived not from our team internally. This is all from our community discussions and essentially what you thought our community change agenda should be composed of. So moving on to stakeholder engagement, what we're doing in goal 1 is partnering with CCRC's Childcare Initiative Project Program to support with 20 Best Start members and obtain childcare licenses within 1 year. I see Susan's right here so that she can actually kind of talk to us a little bit about it if she would like to.
Yes,
But
I'll talk to you guys about it.
Yeah. So, and then I'll move on to goal 2 as well. So goal 2 it's something that's relevant to goal 2 is establishing 4 childcare resource hubs in partnership with key stakeholders, which we've given direct examples here being Ohana Center, SLEA Therapy, Save the Children, and the Children's Center of the AV. It reads that these hubs will be equipped to guide families to CCRC resources and host quarterly informational sessions on childcare options, costs, and enrollment. In stakeholder engagement relevant to Goal 3, we also captured our community notes in which you identified that we engage the identified hubs in hosting child development trainings tailored for childcare providers in their surrounding communities. Now, in pilot programs and capacity building, what we captured relevant to Goal 3 and within this domain is that we develop a pilot program to equip childcare community promotoras with business coaching skills, enabling them to support individuals interested in starting a childcare business. And again, Goal 3 is relevant to our workforce development for ECE and childcare providers. Another one relevant to that is developing a micro-credentialing program in collaboration with ABC, our Antelope Valley College, focused on high-quality childcare and infant care. If I move on to moving on to policy advocacy and reform, this is we have a tactic identified that's relevant through goals 1, 2, and 3, which is establishing an ECE or early childhood educator Antelope Valley Coalition composed of parents, childcare providers, and family serving organizations to drive policy reform efforts, including rate reform, slot increases, and local investments in the childcare system. It reads that this coalition will facilitate advocacy training focusing on DEI, anti-bias, anti-racist practices, special needs, and multilingual learners. The goal here is to train up to 50 parents per year to become advocates for early childhood education. And just noting, we've already started on that. We've already brought in a lot of our partner providers and parents to advocacy conferences. We've taken to Sacramento, and that will continue as we develop more advocates as Best Start continues in our projects. Another policy advocacy and reform tactic that we've identified that's relevant through goals 1, 2, and 3 is that we have the Best Start Academy Fellowship. This is designed to equip parents with the knowledge and skills needed to become advocates for local childcare policy reform. The fellowship provides advocacy training with focus on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, dual language learners needs, and broader childcare system. Offers hands-on experience through real-world advocacy efforts at the local and state levels for the increased investment in childcare. And now our last piece right here was in regards to data-driven analysis. The Best Start projects that we're going to be touching on that were identified by our partnership was 1, relevant to Goal 2, in which we create an Antelope Valley resource mapping, which maps and documents available resources for families with children 0 to 5 by collecting data on childcare, early education, health, and family support services. And this is something that we focus on systems change, right? And the way that we're going to be focusing this piece is by creating power within our parents, right? There's power dynamics and systems change, and the more information that we're equipped with, the more power we have. And so that leads us to Goal 3, in which we touch on the childcare provider needs assessment. And this is something that's in development already, even by our data committee, which we are creating a childcare provider needs assessment, a survey, if you will, that targets provider experiences and challenges, as well as assessing mental health outcomes and access to skill building opportunities. Essentially, our partnership has identified multiple different questions that they wanted to ask our childcare providers directly, from safety to logistics to developmental milestones that their children would be reaching in their care, to how we can help them, how we can help become advocates for them, and how we can help support them in learning opportunities. And so that's going to be something that gets involved here. So that is the rundown, the summary of everything that we've put together over those 3 discussion months. And so from there, I believe I have a Spanish interpretation here. I'll let that sit for a little bit.
Any comments or thoughts that are rising as you're hearing some of this information? I think one of the things that we look for is to ensure that we capture the community voice. There was so many table talks, so many discussions, like David said, in the partnership meetings, in the play groups, online. And so we definitely gathered a lot of input. However, you know, we can only do so much. So we want to make sure we tackle those projects that are most achievable, that can bring about the most systemic change possible in the work that we're doing. What are your thoughts as you're hearing David share this information?
For me personally, I am very happy to see the 20 childcare providers that we are trying to support and get licensed. I'm very interested in us moving forward with that. That's outstanding, as well as the alliance that would be formed after.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, thank you for saying that. It's a wonderful piece because we are not only looking at people that love working with children, right? We are helping opening up business in our communities. And we have that partnership with CCRC to be able to really come alongside that person that really wants to open up that business, work with the child, and walk them through that whole process all the way through their licensing piece and further on, right? So it just doesn't end there, right? So we want to look at 20 people 20 interested Best Start members that love working with children, maybe have some experience, maybe want to open their business at home, and work with them to open up their childcare business in the house, right? So it's a process, but they would have that coaching, right? They would get a coach and their trainings. And it is not just getting their license, getting CPR and the health and safety. It's also the quality of care, right? So we want to make sure that the quality of that they get the training to be able to succeed, right? To see themselves as a business owner, right? Not just a babysitter, a business owner in our community. So that's always been my stance with family childcare, that we're more than I always tell them, you're more than a baby, because some people say, oh, I just babysit. No, you're a business owner, and I want people to think of themselves like that, right? So it means like really supporting 20 Best Start members to do that. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Susan. That's vital information. I see that Jessica had her hand raised. Jessica, go ahead. You can come off mute and share or
Yes, hi, my name is Jessica.
hi.
And I'm a childcare provider, and I think it's great that in encouraging people that to open a daycare. But this is what's happening, and that's a lot of the times I'm speaking for myself because that's the experience that I'm having right now. Childcare is extremely expensive. Families in the Antelope Valley cannot afford it. As a business owner, what's been very difficult is that CCRC doesn't have any subsidy money, and what's going on is that I guess the state has a stop. So then a lot of childcare providers in general are struggling to get enrollments because there isn't subsidy money. So what happens is that only the ones that are currently on the CalWorks, but it stopped, so it's frozen. So it's tough. As a provider, it took me many months and to try to get it. But I think that's one of the things that hopefully in the future, there's more subsidy money so that families have options. I know that CCRC provides Head Start programs and other programs that are very good for the community. However, as childcare providers, sometimes we work longer hours. And a lot of the families have they work long hours. They don't have the typical 9 to 5. Some families have, they have to work weekends or they have to work after. And a lot of the Head Start programs or the programs that CCRC offer does not have it. And I know that some of the families that I've had that came, they love the what I offer because, I do have my degree. I used to be a supervisor for a Head Start program, so I'm very knowledgeable as to what I do. And that's one of the things that they say that, I put in the application, but they haven't called me. And I've had parents who have, unfortunately, they could no longer afford to pay for childcare, and they had to remove them from my program. So that's one of the things that hopefully it's all nice. It's great that, there's a lot of other providers, but that's one of the scarcity that we have right now in the Antelope Valley in general, is the subsidy funding. If there's no subsidy funding, it's very difficult to get children enrolled. And I just wanted
You
to
know
share.
what?
So hopefully.
Thank you for sharing that.
News.
You just led us right into what we're going to have you on the panel tonight. So we have some questions, and you just answered almost half of our questions that we have for our panel
Yeah.
questions. So we do have a panel that are here. Jessica's one of them, along with Monique and Israel. And we want to get through this, but hold your questions if possible. Hold your questions if possible, because we do have our panel discussion that will be coming up short up. There they are. Look at Jessica. That's a beautiful picture. Then we have Israel Marino, Monique Marino of Kids in Color Daycare, and Jessica Ramirez, Bright Stars Family Childcare. So I see your hand, Ms. Day Yusuf. You had a quick comment. Where'd she go?
I did. I had a quick comment, but you might touch on it during your panel, that there is bridge money that we heard about at CCRC conference, that there shouldn't be anyone being turned away. There is bridge money.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, we do have more dollars now that we have to spend for subsidy. So go ahead and send your parents to apply.
So as we get into our panel discussion, because we're headed there, I'm going to ask for Monique and Israel and Jessica to just kind of come on camera. Just briefly, I want to thank you for agreeing to be a part of our panel discussion, and just go over a few questions that we came up with that have already been answered. Thank you, Jessica. But just briefly, if you could, in a few sentences, first and foremost, here's the icebreaker. What propelled you or impacted you to become child care providers or work in this profession? What was one thing that motivated you? And I'll start with Jessica, since she started. What's the one thing that motivated you to want to work with kids and open up a business in child care? One thing.
Pretty much the motivation is that you have autonomy as to what you can do. A lot of the times, when you're working for somebody else, there's some restrictions, and some things are just not feasible. So for myself, I told myself, I have a lot of knowledge, and I've been in taking care of, in early childhood education for like 30 years. So I just wanted to create my own program, and have that autonomy to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And most importantly, to provide quality education for the families and the children.
Awesome. Thank you. Miss Monique, Mr. Israel, are you available?
Can you hear me? My camera's giving me a hard time.
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you. One
okay.
thing that motivated you to open Kids in Color Daycare?
Honestly, it came naturally. If you know me, or if you get to meet me, I'm just like a bubbly, happy person, and kids have always gravitated towards me. But it wasn't until I had my oldest daughter, Alyssa, and I was faced with the struggle of not having someone that could take care of my daughter, that, I started doing childcare. I had my husband's family, they're like 30 to 40 years in the childcare industry. I think they were one of the first childcares in like Burbank, and they've been doing this a really long time. So I had experience, obviously dating him. I would go over and the kids would gravitate towards me because I was fun. And so after I had Alyssa, I was like, hey, you know what? Let me give this a shot and see if it's for me. And like, I'm not even joking. Like the first month, my childcare was full after I got licensed. And ever since then, you know, thank God I've been full. And we've had downs and ups, you know, with the recession, and it's happened, but you know, and I've been able to resource to other providers and try to give them tips on marketing and stuff like that. But it's just a special bond that I've had with kids, and they feel comfortable with me. And um, I just feel like families have a really hard time finding quality, flexible care. And I knew that I could create something better, something that truly supported the families in my area. And you know, we're lucky enough that I get paid for it, so that's a plus. But I really enjoy working with children, helping families, helping people in my community, and you know, that's what inspired me and has kept me in this industry. Just seeing what a difference we can make in the life of other families in our area.
Thank you. Mr. Israel, just quickly, what motivated you to do this in the first place?
Hello. Can you guys hear
Hi.
me? Okay, good. Well,
Yeah.
I think Monique touched on a lot of it. I think for me, I did grow up in a childcare, and I feel that as I got older, I kind of started gravitating towards helping Monique. But my biggest thing was always to make an impact to the lives of kids, you know, especially younger boys. The boys have always been kind of like my inspiration. And now I feel like my calling has been to try to expand and make a childcare more available to the communities, because I think we lack on that. I do agree. I think that we're in a special time with the environment is changing. I think there are organizations that are also shifting their main mission, which would be, you know, as a like a, you know, just to fund childcares and to pay for subsidies. They're now, you know, starting their own childcares, and so the environment is changing. It's a little bit different today. I feel that there are challenges ahead of us. I hope that there's a way to navigate towards this. But overall, my goal is to continue to, you know, do what I'm doing for the community and to continue to expand as much as I can.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for what you all do. Thank you for your services. So one of the questions that the community came up with was, how do families find childcare providers they can trust? So I'll start with Jessica. How would you say, or anyone can answer, anyone who feels that, how do families find a childcare provider they can trust?
I can answer that. So, finding a trustworthy childcare provider. Well, I think first I mean, obviously, well, I'm a parent, so I know the first thing that I would do is do my research, um, go to the facility, check it out. But what I would recommend is parents should visit the center and observe the staff interaction with children, ask about their safety policies and educational approaches, check all the reviews, talk to parents walking out. I've actually had tours where they stick around and they see how we go about our day, and they'll stay outside and they will talk to parents, and I'm okay with it because, you know, it's the parent community, and I definitely feel comfortable with the feedback, and usually that's always great. Um, checking reviews, talking to other parents, ensuring the provider's license and meeting all the regulations. Um, and most importantly, I would tell parents that they just have to trust their instinct. If something doesn't feel right or look right, um, maybe it's not the right space for you. And the good thing is that there's always a place where you'll feel comfortable. And I think and it goes both ways. So when you guys just hit it off and you know that the parent is the parent schedule is something that you can work with and vice versa, and you guys have open communication, then it'll be a long lasting relationship, and it's actually a really beautiful thing. So that's how I believe you could find a childcare you could trust.
Okay, awesome. Any other comments, Monique, Israel? How would you answer that
I
question?
think you mean Jessica.
I mean, Jessica. Well, Jessica just answered, so I meant Monique. Okay.
Darrell,
Uh,
I answered.
oh, it was you, Monique. Okay, so
Monique,
Jessica.
Monique was, yeah.
Look at
Okay.
Jessica's the one that sounds cool. Monique is the one that sounds a little nervy.
You both are super dope cool. Jessica, go ahead.
So for myself, I know that she mentioned, like doing tours. I mean, reviews and all of that, it's all good, but keep in mind, it's the person's perspective. And keep in mind with reviews, a lot of the times it could be that maybe because of a rule that they didn't want to follow, the parent didn't want to follow. And sometimes, I'm going to give them a bad review. So reviews can be iffy. And that's one of the things that, it's always good to know. You can't trust reviews. I think that a lot of the times you just have to go in there, ask questions, and see if you feel comfortable. For myself, it's been very successful. My own families are posting very good comments, like on the Antelope Valley for childcare providers. And that's how I just recently got a set of twins, because my families, without me even asking them to promote me, they're promoting me. And I really appreciate that. I was like, wow. So I see like all these nice, it's like, oh, they're promoting my business without me having to tell them. And I was like, well, that's very nice. And that's how I've had it. But for the most part, I think it's just important to look at the facility, ask questions, and see if it's might be for you. Because every provider is different. And they have different rules and regulations. And so we have to be respectful, because everybody has, a different type of schedule. Some of us have children and some of us don't. So some are stricter than others. But I think that is the most important thing, is that you have to feel comfortable. You have to feel comfortable leaving your child and questions. And then another thing is that if you're going to be like, oh, do they have cameras? Do they have this? Do they have that? Then for me, if there's somebody that's asking too much, if you don't feel comfortable, then maybe this is not the place for you. Maybe you can look for somebody else. Because the thing is that you want people also, it goes both ways, right? You want to make sure that when you're getting a family, that they're feeling comfortable. But if they are not trustworthy, they feel like they can't be trusted, or like cameras and stuff. Sometimes cameras are just meant there to see who's coming in or not. But for myself, they're not meant for parents to be observing. And there's some parents that want to see cameras. Like, yeah, my program does not offer that. You just have to feel comfortable. But there's some that, they're like, I want to see the cameras. Yeah, it's like, well, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't offer that. It can be, everything's a liability nowadays, and perspectives, angles. It's like when you see something, you have to be there to witness exactly what happened. But cameras is something that I don't offer. I do have them, but it's mostly to see for privacy, to see who's coming in, who's going out. But I think you just have to feel comfortable leaving your child. And if you don't feel comfortable, then, find somewhere where you will feel comfortable.
I see we have raised hand. We have community questions and answers at the end. Can you hold your question for a second, or we get back to that? Thank you so much, Jessica. So, what advice would you give someone considering this career?
You need to be very patient, and you have to think that at the beginning, they're not profitable. At the beginning in a business, you're not really making money. You have to think, and you have to have money saved up, because you're not really making income. After all the providers that I know, because I'm part of a network, there's a lot of us. And most of the providers that are successful right now, they've been in business for about 20 years. The newbies like myself, we're barely starting. So at the beginning, you just have to be keep on moving forward and keep on promoting your business. But you just have to be consistent, but know that it's not the same. When you're working for somebody else, it's very different from where you're working for yourself. So it's just you work longer hours, very long hours. I work very long hours. So that's one of the things. And it's just different, you know, but you just have to enjoy what you do. Otherwise, this might not be for you.
Okay. Any other comments from that, Israel or
Sure.
Monique?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the things to consider is that now I'm speaking specifically for in-home childcares, is that you have to be prepared to give um away your personal life, basically, because your business is intertwined with your personal life at a very, big level. So you have to, be patient and take that into consideration, that you not only go to sleep in your business, but you'll also wake up to your business. And at 5 o'clock in the morning, when the doors, the doorbell's ringing to drop off, some kids. And also at the end of the day, if you work late, like we did for the first, I think 10 plus years, 11 o'clock at night. So just be prepared to give a lot of your privacy, away to the families and the business.
Thank you. How do you build?
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry.
can I answer on that? Okay, so
Yeah, please go for it.
I actually have providers call me randomly and ask me this question,
Wow.
and I love to just kind of give them my feedback, but everybody's experience is so different. And like Israel, my husband said, I was 19 when I started this. And, we grew up in this, and, looking back at it, we were having so much fun with the kids' summers. I was a kid, right? My inner child was like, yes, water balloons. Yes. Like we're painting, like, yes, I'm still that person. My inner child loves it. But, whenever they ask me, I'm like, well, first of all, you have to make sure that you have a real passion for children. Um, Passion, patience, dedication, and commitment. I have had parents come to our facility and tell us, do you guys have space? Because my provider closed Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and they told me this week. And so you have to be committed to be that, that extra support that family really relies on. Because if you're not able to sacrifice that, then this might not be the right business for you. And like Jessica said, it does take, I was very fortunate in the beginning, and it might be because, Freddie's family, or Israel's family, they were all in childcare. So I was very fortunate like that. But I remember his aunt used to tell me it takes a year. So like it's gonna be fine. And then when I got full, it was wonderful, so we were blessed in that. But I just tell providers, just have a passion and try to stand out, and social media is so nice now. Social media didn't exist when we started, but it's so nice because you get to, put all the arts and crafts and your curriculum and the meals, because parents are really big on meals on social media, and you get to share what makes me stand out from the rest. So that's just kind of the advice I give other providers.
That's great advice. Wow. That's really good. Thank you.
I have something else to add. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And just really quick, because this is very true, is that although you run this business out of your home, you need to treat it like a real 100% business. And you being the owner and running it, it's not a game. We have heard of some providers maybe just kind of changing their schedule, like I can do it this time, and then suddenly they can't, or leaving the parents in a bad situation. So it has to be treated like a business, meaning whatever you're going to commit to, working 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. If that's what you're going to do, you need to be consistent and do it.
That's good. That's good advice. Thank you. Well, okay, along those lines, you said something that was leading right up to this next question. You can't leave parents in a bind. how do you build trust and maintain strong relationships with families, especially in this business?
For me, it's always been communication. Communication, the good and the bad. We're
Yeah.
not perfect. We've made sometimes little Billy didn't get his extra string cheese or water, and the parent that's my best friend every single day will call me and be not so happy. And if it's my staff, it's me. It's me because I'm in charge of little Billy, and just constant communication and making sure that, did little Billy do his homework? Did he take his jacket? Oh, and the parent talking to me, because if there's no communication, then there's no relationship. And yeah, so just communication, I think is the best tip I would give.
Okay.
I agree 100%. I think that that's definitely key. It's been, I think when you get started, and especially for us, we were so young. Like I was like 22, and Monique was 20 or 19 or something like that. But over the years, right, it was a little uncomfortable. It's kind of, maybe to say no or communicate certain things to parents. But what we found was that, you have to be communicating at all times in order to maintain these relationships and to meet the expectations of families. So that is very, very important.
Okay. What are some of the biggest challenges of running a childcare business that you've encountered?
Oh
Just
my
some
gosh,
challenges.
there are so
Yeah.
many challenges. There are so many challenges. Really, budgeting, taxes,
Ugh.
responsibility for each child. If you're doing transportation, that there's just, complying by licensing, being prepared to receive licensing at your home or facility. I think that all of those play a really big important part that makes it challenging. But I think, the budgeting and taxes can be something that if you're not careful, it'll, come and get you at the end of the year, pretty much. Yeah, I think, there's just a lot of things that happen in childcare. It's so many moving parts. So you just have to be on top of everything, have time to manage those areas of your business, monthly, weekly, daily, have a set schedule for running your budgets, know more or less what your what your ongoing expenses are. That's a good thing. Don't overspend, follow good rules to save. Something I practice is the 50-40-10 rule. And just really be what you have to be really strict on your on how you manage your finances, your clients, and every moving part. And this has a huge, it just becomes even harder or more challenging once you try to scale up and go from like an in-home to a center. It's a big giant shift. So it just becomes bigger and more important. So that, for me, that's what it is.
Okay. Thank you, Israel.
Can I add, Jessica? I'm so sorry. Your next girlfriend. No, just to add on, to what Israel said. I think another challenge is staff. Maintain a healthy relationship with staff and supporting them. Supporting our staff has been something very important to us, and also challenging, because there's been times where Sally and Susan both want Friday off, and I really rely on Sally and Susan, but their happiness, although I have other things I really have to do, but their happiness is super important to me. So me and Israel will be the teacher and he'll be the driver, just to maintain our staff happy. So maintaining that has been a little challenging. And competing with wages has been a little bit challenging. So yeah, that's just my area that I think I I could see as a big challenge in a bigger, or maybe smaller, just in this industry.
Okay, okay. Jessica, for you, what's been some of the biggest challenges
For
that you've
myself, I
encountered?
mean, so I'm a newbie. I've only been licensed for one. However, the experience that I've had has helped me because a lot of the stuff I've been familiar with. However, I don't have staff, so pretty much my family members, which is my husband and my daughter, whenever they are available, they can help me. However, I cannot count on them because I still have the large license. I'm still in the process of getting the large license. It just takes process. I think right now one of the difficult things that for those of us that are trying to get the larger license is just that unfortunately with the wages that we have, it's hard to find staff, right? Because we cannot afford to pay them what they deserve. So it's not that you don't want to, it's just that you can't afford it. Right now, the cost of living is extremely high. Food, I mean, I'm in the food program and I kid you not, I get very little. Other than the trainings that they offer, there's really, it's nothing. You pay a lot more, but it's something, but it's not enough. Um, I think that just being able to be consistent, you have to be very detailed with what you do. And you just have to know that everything's going to be a roller coaster ride. Every day there's a new challenge, and you just have to be professional and find ways to continue because that like if any business the first couple of years it's you struggle, you know, but you just have to be consistent. And the family life, because like, you know, a lot of us have mentioned, some of us sometimes we have longer hours, we work longer hours. I work every day, I have no day off. So it's really hard for me right now. But at the same time, I'm looking at it in the long run because it's either I take the families that I have or I don't get any families, you know? So a lot at the beginning, like a lot of the childcare providers say, you know, at the beginning, you know, you might not have your typical Monday through Friday, which that's what I want in the long run. But at the time, I'm working every day. So I work every day. I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning and sometimes 7 to 9 o'clock at night. So for me, it's just being able to be consistent and then be positive. And I am big believer in God, so I do a lot of prayer. So that has helped me to continue doing what I'm doing because it's not an easy job. It's difficult. It's just not sugar coated. It's not easy. However, what's rewarding is seeing the milestones of the children and how they are learning so much from what the activities that you offer and from, you know, all the environment that you have. It's so that's what's rewarding. It's extremely rewarding. So that to me is like, oh, you know, they make your day because of what's going on. But yeah, it is difficult, but at the same time, it's not impossible. I think to be successful, you have to continue doing what you're doing and have a positive outlook. Otherwise, you're not going to succeed. If you're always thinking, I was like, oh, I have this and I have to do this and I have to do that. It's like, yeah, I work every day. Yes, I do work every day. But you know what? It is what it is. And I'm just going to move on forward, you know, and yeah, that's
Great
what you do.
attitude. Awesome attitude, all of you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, here's a question. We really want to hear from you from this one. How can a community, like our Antelope Valley, how can a community support its local child care providers? What can we do to support you all and what you do with the children? How can we support child care providers?
I think the community can support childcare providers by advocating for better funding and policies that will help all childcares, small to large, and focus on helping their businesses thrive um, to create a quality care for children and families in within our area. So advocating, the community can help us by advocating for funding and policies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What about you, Israel? How can a community support its local child care providers?
Well, I was not too sure how to answer this question, but Monique made a good point. I like that. I've been learning a lot about that these past year. It's been really eye opener for me. So definitely advocating is super important. I think because again, a change in landscape in the industry. I really hope, and I don't think it's going to happen, but if there's like cuts and stuff like that, then that would be devastating, right? But
Right.
I think as we move forward and into the future, one of the things that I think would be beneficial would be to have larger corporations pay for their employees' childcare, to subsidize it in that way. I think that would be helpful, like, as a community. Obviously, joining our daycare would be also a great help. But there just has to be a lot of changes, I think. I think we need to be seen more as, and this comes with advocating, it is like a crucial part of our society and our economy. We've been around doing it for, childcare has been around for a very long time. And I think it shouldn't be put in the back of anything else, or, we should be at the front because of everything that we do for supporting parents and also helping change the lives of so many children for the future. So advocating, and I think more organizations being supportive to their employees to subsidize or pay for childcare.
Okay, thank you. Miss Jessica, any thoughts? How do you think?
Completely agree. I think I've been part of the union trying to get a lot of the politicians like councilmen talking about the how it's sad to say, but a lot of the times we are just not recognized as professionals. And I completely understand that everybody has a different educational background, but we are known as babysitters, and we're not babysitters, even though, we're not babysitters. So I know that when I was part of the union and that we were speaking, I'm very big at advocating. So that's one of the things that I think it's really important, because what happens is that, whenever they're providing funding, it could be that they might have a different perspective. It's like, oh, why are we funding them, when there's other programs? The thing about other programs is that they do not offer precisely the hours that parents need, right? So I know that when I used to work for a Head Start program, even parents would call, and obviously they try to recruit the families to their program, even though it's not in the best in the interest of the family. Does that make sense? So unfortunately, we as providers do not have autonomy as to who gets the funding. Here in the Antelope Valley is CCRC, right? But unfortunately, in my opinion, there's a conflict of interest, because they're the ones that do the subsidy. But at the same time, they have a lot of different programs. And I know that some families, when they've spoken to me, they say, when they have called, that they don't necessarily give them the information as to what's offered for their needs precisely, not always. So that's one of the things that I feel, in my opinion, having worked for a Head Start program myself, not CCRC, but another program, a lot of the times, they try to recruit the families for their program because, they're federally funded. But at the same time, they do have these subsidies for other providers like myself and other childcare providers. And that's one of the things that for myself, it's like, there has to be, how do I say it? It's just, it's a big, I'm having worked. It's very different. There's a lot of things that happen within organizations. I just want to make sure that when we are offering, we let them know everything that's out there, not necessarily try to get the families to fill their spots. Does that make sense? So that's one of the things that and like I said, I used to work for a Head Start program that even though they would call and say, hey, these are the hours, they would not provide, hey, CCRC, or they offer these subsidies. Does that make sense? So a lot of the times, letting families know what's out there, not to necessarily what's to recruit, they'll have different programs. They need to be aware as to what's out there and what's in their best interest. Because many times they might not be in a program that necessarily feeds their needs. Does that make sense? And a lot of the families are working families. They work long hours. They work weekends. It's very challenging to get sometimes programs that offer what they need to offer. But that's one of the things that I've seen. And again, having been in Head Start for a long time and being in the union and advocating, we just have to make sure that families are aware.
Okay, so that's one way we could support is support you, making sure our families are aware to know to ask these questions, correct? Okay, well, thank you. I know we have a lot of questions in the chat box, so I'm going to ask my coworker. Stephanie, can you share the first question in the chat box for me? Go to the chat.
Yes, let me. Hold on. This new update is not.
I don't think we have any questions in the chat, but we
I
got
think there are more.
some resources and
Mhm.
comments
Okay.
supporting or adding to the what the panelists share.
Okay. Let's see the first comment. I know Ms. Day had her hand raised. Well, I know she made a comment. What was the comment? If we can read that and just kind of share out for those of you, for our
Or if
panelists.
any, Dora, I would say if anybody has any questions, now is the time.
I had made a comment, but I put it in the chat that the two places, a lot of people come and they move to the area and they don't really know like where to look for childcare, right? So I put a couple of resources there that people can go to the R&R network and the My Child Care Plan. And both of those have links to the child care licensing, right? So one of the things that I always tell parents is to, when they find somebody, they can take that further step and call licensing to see if they've had any complaints made, right? Because that's a good way of really taking that step further, right? To see if there's any open complaints. It shouldn't be, but so that's another tip. And I put those two links in there.
Okay. Thank you so much, Susan. Any other comments or questions? We received a lot of great information and things to think about.
I had a comment.
Yes, Ms. Day.
So coming from a perspective of, I'm a child care provider that's not paid as a child care provider. I have raised 15 children from the ages of between 2 and 3 to 16 and 17, omitting the 4 that I raised that are personally mine. I am also assisting raising my 3 grandchildren and several god grandchildren. So with that in mind, I wanted to address or give a comment in reference to picking a child care provider. I think it's a lot of involvement with the parent. The parent has a lot of involvement. It's trial and error to a certain point. Yes, all of the resources that you all gave are so true and absolutely excellent. However, you can still find after that a provider that is not doing it for the great reasons. Those do not seem to be any of the providers on this particular Zoom. How wonderful and blessed is that? But you can still find the ones that aren't in it to deal with the child because they love children. We have people that are dealing with children that's not their passion. So for me, what I did was, I guess fortunately and unfortunately, I ended up having 4 different generations separately. So I would go to, I would ask the elementary school, who's being used for childcare, and then I would find out who had used them and ask the parents when I came in contact. But what I did also is I would ask permission to come pop in. I would also ask permission to just be an observer, to be able to sit across the room, not engage, but see how my child was reacting with with the providers and the other children. I know that's work because we all have jobs and we're dropping off, and trying to get to work, but you're working for the benefit of the child, so sometimes that extra care needs to go into it. That's my 2 cents.
Well, thank you for sharing, Ms. Day. Any other comments, observations, things that you picked up on? Feel free to come off mic, come off the mute, and just, we have these providers that are here, ask questions, make comments, because they shared a lot of great information. I'll give you a few minutes. If not, David, we're going to move on because we do have a few other things to share with you tonight. Our best start, Antelope Valley.
Thank you, Jarrell. Not sure what happened there. It looks like there was a little bit of lag and overlapping music.
Cool video.
Thank you. Thank you.
The
Thank
best
you
trip
for
ever.
sharing that.
It
So
was a
this
great
was, as we're moving into the committee updates, I did want to share that the policy committee organized alongside ECE Voices from Every Child California a trip to Sacramento on January 21st. And so Natalie, our amazing outreach member, outreach person, captured amazing footage, and we're like, we need to turn this into a movie. So there you got a little snippet of our adventure with the Best Start community on adventure in Sacramento. I was just sharing earlier this morning how beautiful it was to hear everyone share their support for childcare, whether they were a parent, a grandparent, a community member, whether they serve children directly or they're providing services that support families in general. Everyone showed up at the Capitol and gave their 2 cents on why we need to make sure that we have legislative support, especially as it pertains to the Antelope Valley, to make sure that the resources are funneling in to the AV. And so it was just a very unique and beautiful experience to share that space with our community members. From the moment we got on the carpool, making sure no one got left behind, to getting back all together. I mean, what better way to build community than to travel in community? Um, when I talk to childcare providers and I say, the AV is unique because the community backs you, that's what it looks like. The community showing up to advocate for childcare providers. I mean, to me, it fills my heart. This is why I do what I do. I love seeing the community get together and say, hey, let's bring about the change that we want. And so we do have another event coming up this Saturday. It's a follow-up to our trip to Sacramento. It's an ECE Voices meet and greet. This event is sponsored by Every Child California ECE Voices. We have invited our legislative members and local government officials to join us and share space with childcare providers so that they can hear directly from them what their experience is in the fields, whether there's challenges in the classroom. I mean, Jessica, Monique, Israel, you guys just shared so much about the cost of care. The three things that are on the ECE Voices policy priority agenda are slot release, rate reform, and I always blank out on the third one. I can never remember that third one. The extension to hold harmless, which is, and we hope that there will be an extension, that child care providers continue to get paid based on enrollment and not on attendance, because child care providers, whether the child shows up or not, they plan for X amount of children in their care, right? So there's no kind of like take back, kid didn't show up, therefore let me cut my grocery expenses, so on and so forth. And so again, it's beautiful to see our Antelope Valley become knowledgeable about our current policy issues affecting our childcare system and how we can get behind our childcare providers to support and elevate their voice. So that's just my update. Join us on this Saturday, February 22nd, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at All for Kids Family Resource Center. Darrell will share the flyer in just a bit. And if you got the e-blast, please share it with other childcare providers. If you need if it's easier and you need a flyer via text message, feel free to reach out and make sure we can get that to you.
Thank you, Carla. I'm going to turn this over to my cohort, Gloria, and I will do this together. We are now over the helping lead the Welcome Committee, and we have two new co-chairs. One is Kelly Kelly Timmons, and Gloria. Then you introduce our other one.
Norma Joaquin
Ramiro.
as well.
Okay, okay. And the Welcome Committee have made some changes. They've decided those who participate in the Welcome Committee would like to meet every Thursday, the first Thursday and the last Thursday of the month. They will be participating in the meet and greet on Saturday, and you will see more of them as they take a lead in the work at our partnership meetings. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to David.
Thank you guys for your updates. Yeah. So then what our data committee, what we're doing here is that as we outlined in the community change agenda goals, every single piece of feedback has been, in regards to data analysis, has actually been weaved in either to our resource mapping project and our child care provider needs assessment survey. So what we've been doing is we've been drafting the questions that we've been collecting that we want to ask for our child care providers in the AVs. We're planning to release that next month. And on top of that, what we've been doing within our committee has been is creating a toolkit as well that allows our committee members to conduct research on their own terms. And this gives them access to resources that are allowing them to create surveys that allow them to gather attendance data and analyze it. It allows them to conduct focus groups and allows them to create agendas that can cover maybe the dissemination of information or analysis. So what we're doing is we're leading towards that capacity building goal, to which all of our data committee members are able to be equipped to share this information with their colleagues or within their organizations, or to help inform their own advocacy efforts. So yeah, so that's where we're at right now. We've recently actually also talked to childcare providers in piloting our survey as well. So everything that's about this has been really integrated within our members and is really rooted in the feedback of our partners and the most important people, which are our parents 0 to 5 and our ECE or daycare providers. Yeah, and with that,
Awesome.
I think we can move on, right? We don't have any other updates? Yeah. Great. And then before I go into that, I did also want to give a little bit of time to share also what Susan had shared previously in the chat, just to show you guys really quickly what it is that we've been, what we were doing. So I'll share you guys this one. This is what Susan had shared in the chat. So if you guys wanted to take a look at this in further detail, just know that Susan, we've also downloaded it so that this can also be shared in our this can also be shared in our post-meeting resources.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah. So just so you guys can look, here's a Spanish version as well. So that you guys can
I also wanted to mention that SIP also helps not just by opening businesses, but if you're expanding your license, if you're I heard somebody here that was expanding their license, going from small to large. So if you're expanding, if you're changing, if you're taking infant toddlers, if you're changing hours, any type of change in your license, we can go ahead and you can call SIP and we can help you with any of those things that this flyer talks about. Okay, so.
That's good information, Susan. Thank you for sharing that.
Then we have hand it back to you.
Okay. Yeah, coming up this Saturday, February 22nd, we have our meet and greet, and that's supported by our early child care education in the Antelope Valley. And you are all invited, especially our child care providers. We will have our local legislators there. We're going to sit down, we're going to meet, we're going to enjoy some time of networking. There will be light breakfast. You'll follow up and be able to see and ask questions and hear the stories, much like what our child care providers here were able to share, but we'll also be able to talk to some of our local leaders and hear about some policies that are changing or may not be changing, but we know that things are going to be changing soon. So we'll be able to talk. So, and tell your friends, invite those. If you have other friends that are in that profession, childcare providers, tell them about the meet and greet. You can scan that, our little QR code, but that will be this Saturday morning. So please come between 9 and 12. We'll be there at our offices at All for Kids. Next slide, David. We do have some upcoming learning opportunities with our Best Start community. And this is free. We are going to have another learning opportunity, creating equitable early learning environment for young boys of color, disrupting disproportionate outcomes. So this is going to be coming up soon on Saturday, March the 22nd. You can please sign up for that. Stephanie's put a link in the chat, but you can scan that. Again, these flyers will be sent to you. Please share with your community. Let them know that these learning opportunities are coming up soon. And space is limited, so sign up as soon as possible. David? Some community announcements. Birth and rebirth doula training. That training is a cohort of ours. In due time, Coalition Doulas are going to be having training. These are the dates for that. Again, this information will be sent. So if you know someone that is interested in becoming a doula or being trained for that, we have some training dates available, the 16th, 23rd, March 2nd, and March 9th. Again, you can get additional information concerning this upcoming training. Next flyer, please. The Antelope Valley African American Infant Maternal Mortality Community Action Team invites you to our free community event for Black moms and babies that will be held. Our AB AIM focuses on reducing the mortality rate of Black mothers and their babies. That will be held Thursday, February 27th from 4 to 6 p.m. Next slide. Oh, yes, Dave, I see your hand. Go ahead.
So I wanted to reference the AIM CAT meeting. We need providers there. What this particular one is doing is we are connecting those parents, whether they be moms or dads, with the necessities to thrive. We're beyond survive. We need to thrive. And one of those things is the fact that they need childcare that they can trust in order to go out there and get the job, in order to make the money. They need to not be able to have to worry about their children. And so we want to connect childcare providers with those parents that have these 0 to 5 that need you desperately. So we invite you, please, to come. You can table if you would like. If you just want to be there, pass out cards. If you want to give a brief introduction about your child care, all of that is acceptable. We would love for you to be there.
Thank you for sharing that extended part date. That's absolutely correct. Thank you so much.
Quick question. Did you want them to reach out directly to you or register via this QR code?
Well, whatever's more comfortable for them. I mean, they can just register via the QR code. But if you want to reach out to me because you feel more comfortable with doing that, I got no problems with it.
Next slide. Again, and I think this is important for our child care providers and our family members, fresh produce through first come, first serve until supplies last. This is in our community. These are the dates. You can come and get fresh fruit and vegetables. Yes, that's great information. So again, these flyers will be sent to you. You will be able to have this information. And I know a lot of the childcare providers, they have to provide the food, and sometimes it comes out of pocket. So this is another subsidy that can also help with feeding healthy foods to our families and our young ones, our little ones. Next slide, please. We continue on. We have our Parents Anonymous group and our advocacy support services that are here, that are available. You can take advantage of these. Our families might need these. If you know families that are a part of the community, a part of your child care services or your child care centers, that they might need extra support. This is there for them. We have these resources available. Next slide. All right. Follow us. Yeah. We are on social media. You can use our QR code to go to our link tree. Everything pertaining to Best Start. Share it with your friends, your neighbors, your families. Share information, because the information that they might need is here with Best Start. So, and we want your support. Go to our Facebook, leave a comment, subscribe to our channel. All right. Thank you for your attendance. We appreciate you coming. I want to say a special thank you to those who participated on our panel, Jessica, Israel, and Monique. Thank you so much for taking time out. You guys have had a busy day. I know you have. I've seen your day at the beginning, so I know you are all busy, but thank you for taking a few moments out to share with our community. It was greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
we are right on time, you all. Thank you again for attendance. You all have a wonderful evening, and we will see you next month, or we will see you on Saturday. And for sure, we'll see some of you on Thursday. All right? Have a good night.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jay. Have a good night.